Do you like to be absolutely miserable? Do you have a long night of inconsolable sobbing ahead of you? Well, boy, do I have the video for you. Welcome to the Sadness Emporium, dear viewer. I've compiled a list of some of the saddest songs I've ever heard in my life, and I'm going to go over them today. Some break me with their lyricism, some break me with the story behind the song. Some just sound sad, you know? I don't know. I thought of 15 of them and then I burst into tears, so I stopped right there. Let's get started. Pearl Jam, Black Unplugged. Gotta start with the classic Pearl Jam's Black. A lot of breakup, boo-hoo music doesn't really get me going, but this song is just, it's heartbreaking. If the original doesn't get the tears flowing, the unplugged version always gets me going. Eddie Vedder spoke on the song in a documentary and said, "The song's about letting go. It's very rare for a relationship to withstand the Earth's gravitational pull and where it's going to take people and how they're going to grow. I've heard it said that you can't really have true love unless it was a love unrequited. It's a harsh one because then your truest one is the one you can't have forever." One of the deepest, most vulnerable tracks of the 90s and comfortably one of the saddest songs I've ever heard in my life. Radiohead's Fake Plastic Trees. I shouldn't have to explain this one too much. I can perhaps speak on the creation of the song a little bit though. The band had the instrumentals written for this song, but Tom struggled to put words to the melody with this song. After seeing Jeff Buckley live, Tom was able to write this absolute masterpiece and fighting through tears in the studio as he performed it. It's a song about the emptiness of life, I guess, the plastic world that Tom found himself in, and the pain that came with it. It's a song about the falsities of society and their borderline unstoppable path of destruction. He hates this fake world and yet finds himself a part of it. It's a very tough song to listen to, for sure. Ween Birthday Boy. A newer entry on songs that make me sob uncontrollably, Ween's Birthday Boy. This one has a couple layers. Firstly, the instrumentation is just about what you'd expect from early Ween. Super loud, super obnoxious, but on this song it feels incredibly purposeful. It feels like Gene is trying to hide behind the music here. It's the most vulnerable track in their discography, and he seems to treat it as such. It's a fairly standard breakup song in most other regards, but lyrically, this hits really hard. It comes from a 20-year-old kid that lost the girl he loved, and the girl he thought he'd spend his life with. It's childish in many ways, but I think that just makes it even more heartbreaking and beautifully written. Incredible song. Smashing Pumpkins' Mayonnaise. One of my favorite songs ever recorded, appropriately titled Mayonnaise, or phonetically, is that the word? My Own Eyes. It's a song about feeling lost and misunderstood. A song about overcoming anxiety and coming into your own. Becoming yourself, as it's worded in the song. Coupled with genuinely mesmerizing instrumentation, it's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. The Cure, Love Song. Pretty self-explanatory, right? Why is it so sad? I find the song to express love, obviously, but a love that I'm not sure I can describe in this silly video, you know what I mean? A love so profound that it feels like it's all the narrator can really feel. While the lyrics themselves sound incredibly romantic and warm in a way, the tone of voice and the instrumentation here paint a completely different picture. To me, these words describe an emotionally fragile man that needs this relationship to feel complete, to be whole. This sounds more like a plea than a celebration of love. The song isn't about heartbreak, far from it even. It's a song about how much it hurts to need someone so deeply that it tears you apart. That's only the 5th song. Fuck. Alice in Chains' Nutshell. Unplugged. Man, oh man, this might be the single saddest song I've ever heard. It's not a love song, it's a song about a losing battle and drug addiction. Lane Staley, a man so torn apart by heroin, kind of singing his own farewell to the industry. The live version of the song is described as a man singing at his own funeral. It's an unbearably painful farewell from a man that knows he's not going to make it, that the path of recovery has completely vanished before his eyes. Only 8 lines of lyrics on the song, but each one used masterfully to paint this picture of isolation, of loneliness, of fear, and of pain. Coupled with an incredibly simple acoustic riff, it just kind of lets the words pierce right through. I don't know how else to put it. The song concludes with the line, "If I can't be my own, I'd feel better dead." In a sense, if this is what the rest of his life is going to be like, slowly deteriorating from heroin, then he'd rather die. And die he did. Rest in peace, Lane. Linkin Park, One More Light. This is a really tough one. Chester's suicide doesn't come too long after this song, and in hindsight, this song comes across as a plea for help from a man in an indescribable amount of pain. It comes off as an anti-suicide song in my mind, as Chester reaches out to the listener and pretty much says don't do that shit. Even if no one else cares, he does. It hurts all the more that he would take his own life several months later. It's a cry from the heart of someone who understood pain deeply, and through this song, provided a shoulder for those in that same pain to cry on. Incredibly touching track. Rest in peace to one of the greats. Fishman's Long Season, the live version. I've now realized the last 3 tracks all end with the lead singer tragically dying. Sorry for the tragedy bomb. We'll be back to our regularly scheduled sadness right after this one. Fishman's Long Season is a 40-minute long masterpiece of a song released in 1996. In 1998, the band would planned to disband for one reason or another, but they would play one final show at Asakasa Blitz in Tokyo, where they would play all of their best work and go out on a high note. What the world didn't know at the time is that this would be vocalist and guitarist Shinji Sato's final appearance in the music world, and the last we'd ever see of the full Fishman's lineup. Shinji passed away 3 months after this final show, and with that knowledge, you can visibly see him giving everything he had in this final show. It's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. Long Season is considered the band's magnum opus, and this live performance may be the single greatest piece of music I've ever heard. I can't really put it into words, but this song doesn't even really make me feel sad. It makes me sad in the way that the music world lost this beautiful soul so young, but it also makes me indescribably happy that I got a chance to listen to it 25 years after. If there are tears, I'm not sure where they come from, but it's a beautiful farewell from one of the greatest musicians the world has ever seen. Rest in peace, Shinji. Radiohead, Street Spirit, Fade Out. A song about the futility of life, the pointlessness of existence, and the certainty of death. It's an incredibly solemn conclusion to an already devastating record. Tom describes this track as Radiohead's purest song, saying that he didn't write it, but that the song kind of wrote itself. He also said, "It hurts like hell every time I play it, looking out at thousands of people cheering and smiling, oblivious to the tragedy of its meaning, like when you're gonna have to put your dog down and it's wagging its tail on the way there." I feel that gets the point across pretty well, but although the song is absolutely devastating, I also think it ends on like a glimmer of hope, or perhaps Tom's own solution to the futility of life. He says to immerse your soul in love. Love is the answer to all that life has to offer, he finds. Heartbreaking end to an already heartbreaking record. This one gets me going good. Slipnot Snuff. I think a lot of why this song hits so hard is how out of place it is in their discography. From one of the loudest, most in-your-face bands I've ever heard to an incredibly vulnerable and unfiltered track about loss. It's not just a breakup song, it's a song about betrayal, a song about emotional catastrophe that follows a breakup. It's not even necessarily about the breakup itself, it's more so what the breakup left him with. The husk of who he once was. It's a goodbye drenched in pain, delivered by a man that doesn't even expect an answer. Devastating track. Radiohead, How to Disappear Completely. This is a real tough one. I don't even know where to start. The music itself is enough to drive me to tears. Some of the most beautiful and powerful instrumentation I've ever heard in my life. As for the lyrics, they tackle Tom's own struggle during the height of his career. He said, "That song is about the whole period of time that OK Computer was happening. We did the Glastonbury Festival and this thing in Ireland, and something snapped in me. I just said, that's it. I can't take it anymore. And more than a year later, we're still on the road. I hadn't had time to address things. The lyrics came from something Michael Stipe said to me. I rang him and said, I can't cope with this. And he said, pull the shutters down and keep saying, I'm not here. This isn't happening. It's a song about disassociation and a way to cope with trauma, I guess. Not something everyone can relate to, but if you can, this song hits like a large vehicle. Radiohead, True Love Waits. Wow, a lot of Radiohead on here, huh? I mean, that does make sense. For this entry, I mean the live version of this track, specifically live in Oslo. That's the one on streaming services. This song is just devastating in every sense of the word. This live version was played, I believe, in 1995 or 6, and the song wasn't officially released until 2016 on A Moon-Shaped Pool. These two different renditions I find to have two very different meanings. The original rendition feels more like a young man begging his lover to stay. It feels like an act of desperation, and I think the acoustic guitar played on that track reflects that desperation beautifully. You can hear the desperation in the strings. Just the passion behind the playing makes this rendition all the more powerful in my eyes. The studio release feels much more like a whispered goodbye. A much more solemn track with the acoustic guitar replaced with a cold piano. His voice trembles a little bit on this track. It's about his wife that recently passed away after they separated. It's much more heartbreaking as now these words of desperation kind of just float into the void. His tone of voice sounds like he's fully aware of that, though. It sounds far more like a goodbye than the original did. It sounds like a eulogy for love itself, as though the very concept of love in Tom's eyes died with his wife. Man, Radiohead, Letdown. Last Radiohead song, I swear, and then we're almost done. That's good news. It's another song about disassociation, I think, perhaps a bit more subtly done in this case. It captures despair, but a very subtle despair, one that kind of just lurks within your soul. It tackles the routine of life, the emotional disconnection, and kind of being let down by what life has to offer. The feeling of wanting more from this life, but not really knowing how to get it or if it's even possible. The longing for more, even if you can't put it into words. It's a tough one to really explain, but it's just a hard track to listen to. 9 Inch Nails, Hurt. Trent Reznor's agonizing conclusion to the Downward Spiral record. A lot of this song's heartbreak for me comes due to it being the concluding piece of that album. The entire album tells the story of complete mental collapse, ending with the narrator's suicide on the penultimate track. Hurt is the final track, and seems to be the narrator in the afterlife reflecting on the final chapters of his life. It's full of regret, it's full of pain, the pain he blames on himself, but truly, the final lines I think will haunt me for the rest of my life. He says, "If I could start again, a million miles away, I would keep myself. I'd find a way." What I find so heartbreaking about this line is that he doesn't want to go back and stop himself from taking his own life. It's not the regret of the action, it's the regret of the life he lived up until that moment. What happened, happened, but if he could start fresh, from zero, he'd find a way to be himself. Heartbreaking track. And last but not least, Ween's I Don't Want It. A lot of the Ween discography ends up having a sad song or two on each album, typically written about Jeaner's ex-wife. This track is kind of the concluding piece of that whole era of music for these guys. There's nothing really Ween about this song, if that makes any sense. There's no distorted vocals, there's no weird instruments. It's just a very simple song. It feels to me almost like a sequel to Birthday Boy. It's a raw and honest portrayal of the pain Jeaner went through at the end of this relationship. It's a pretty standard breakup song lyrically, but the song concludes with a guitar solo unlike almost any I've heard. I don't play the guitar, so I don't know if it's hard to do technically, but this is one of my favorite solos ever. The tone of the guitar shifts right here when the solo begins. It shifts to a distorted tone, almost like the one on Birthday Boy. A tone Jeaner once used to hide his heartbreak, now used as a kind of a send-off for this relationship. A damn magical solo and one of the few done by Gene instead of Dean, who does most of the guitar work for these guys. A really powerful track, and a great way to wrap up their discography. Do remember that La Cucaracha isn't a real album, and it doesn't exist. That's all I have here, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed. I'm sorry for bumming everybody out, but thought it was a cool video to make. Let me know what else you want to see from me, I guess. Peace.